Hey, my whole world's upside down. Okay, let's go over to Instagram. We're gonna go live. There we go. Comment, post. Hello, everybody. Okay, we're gonna pin that. Okay, we're gonna go back over here. Hi. Hi. Oh my gosh, look at all your little comments already. Hello. How are you? Oh my gosh, what are you all doing? Elisa ordered one of my Be Your Own Bestie signed. I love you, Elisa. Eliza? I don't know. It's one of those names that, can go a bunch of different ways. Oh my God, the chat is going crazy. Hi, loves. Okay, so this is actually like me coming home because when I first started on social media, I used to do lives on TikTok. That's how I grew such a big part of my following in the early days. So I feel like I'm back home. Oh my gosh, this chat is going crazy. There's so many of you. Okay, so can we do a little bit of um, housekeeping right at the top? So I'm going to say this a couple times in this live, but this is all about my book, Be Your Own Bestie. Can you even believe I wrote a book, y'all? But if you would like to get a signed copy of my book through TalkShopLive, if you're watching from TalkShopLive, you can click the shop button. If you are watching on Facebook or Instagram, comment the word shop and they'll send you a link to order. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. Oh my gosh. I can't believe you all are here. So, this is my live. We're going to be here for 45 minutes, maybe to an hour. I've missed going live with you all so much, and I'm really excited to talk about Be Your Own Bestie, to answer some of your questions. Please, if you have questions about anything, really, but if you have questions about my book, like what's inside of it, the process, how I went about getting it, the inspiration, all of those things, please feel free. Also, if you just have any other random questions, that'll keep the things moving. Let me know if you want me to read a passage. That's like a thing authors do. This is a new world to me. But yeah, I'm very, very excited. So let's get into it. And I just saw someone say they're from Bastrop. You were just down the road, bestie. Okay, well, yeah, write in the chat where y'all from. Become friends with your neighbors. So before I get into any questions, I wanted to just kind of tell you about the book a little bit, how it came to be. And honestly, and I mean this very honestly, the book came to be because of you. You all inspired me so much. Actually, my managers a couple years ago were like, "You should write a book," and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I was a theater actor and now I'm an influencer. Why should I write a book? But then a few years ago, some of you might remember this, I did a fundraising challenge on my social media through the app Cameo. And I said that I would donate the proceeds of the month of December to the charity No Kid Hungry. And you all came through like you always do for me. Okay. And I thought I was like, I'll get a few more requests on Cameo. Y'all, I did over 600 videos in just the month of December alone, which was a lot of work, but we donated thousands of dollars to help kids not feel that pang of hunger, which just felt really good. It was the first time in my life I was able to donate anything close to that kind of money. So that felt really incredible. But what I really learned from that moment was 95% of the requests that I got from besties like you were people asking me for advice or needing a pep talk. They were really, really down on themselves. And I just saw myself. I related so much. I've been there. I've been that person who didn't really know where my life was headed, right? I just kind of felt very down about myself. And I did something about it. And I've, been doing that for the last 7 years. But what I also learned was that, I had not just built an audience, I built trust. And, people are willing to be vulnerable with me, which takes a lot of guts. I know that. And he was like, I don't take this for granted. This feels like it could be something. And so that's where the seed of wanting to write a book came from. Wanting to write a self-help book that really just tells my story. And it's this, I'm going to tell you this. If you have ever gotten anything from my social media, That's what this book is. I don't pretend to be an academic in human behavior and psychology. I'm just your gay best friend. Okay. I just want to sit with you and gossip and chat and tell stories and, hopefully like feel better and learn a lot about each other. And so it is a collection of stories, both from my personal life and people that I've met who have really, impacted me and taught me some really good lessons. I'm so proud of it. And yeah, so with that, I'm gonna turn the chat to for me. I'm just telling you this out loud. I don't know why to questions only. So I'm only gonna see questions. So if you have a question, I can also like scroll back. Oh my gosh, Gloria from San Antonio, Lori from Pittsburgh, Tiffany, thank you. I love you, Tiffany Krieger. Misty Dawn from Arizona. So many of you are like, you need to come to my city on tour. I promise I'm gonna. Okay, so do my parents accept me for who I am? You know what? My mom, um, I've been told to remind you that if you are watching on Facebook and Instagram, if you would like to order a signed copy of the book, comment the word shop on this live and they'll send you a link. Okay? If you're on TalkShopLive, click the shop button. And if you are on YouTube, click the link in the description. But Instagram and Facebook, you just got to comment it. My mom's probably watching this live right now, honestly. I do have an incredible family. They have always supported me. We're from a tiny little town. My dad was in the military. My mom was a stay-at-home mom at first and then worked her way up and into her career. But they have always allowed me to just be myself and explore my personality. And yeah, they're like my best friends. I literally FaceTime them probably like 3 or 4 times a week. They're probably so annoyed. So, what other questions do we have about the book? Oh, it's so easy to write a book. It's the stuff after that's so hard, the publishing, the sizing, it's not for the weak, at heart, it takes time. You're right, you know what? Someone else asked me that, a woman's newsletter that, is doing, an exclusive on me. They asked, like, what was the easiest part of writing? And I said, honestly, it just writing. They're my stories, right? And I feel like I've been writing little chapters on social media for years. So, writing out the stories was the easy part. You're so right. It's all of this other stuff that I've had to learn. But I love learning. I'm like a little sponge. So, it's also been very rewarding, but I loved writing. So what was the one moment that really made you feel like your next chapter was to write a book? Okay, Lindsay Ann Wilson. I love that question. So, like I told, you might have missed it. So I did my fundraising challenge for the holidays and donated thousands of dollars to the charity No Kid Hungry for the holidays. And then after that, I thought about it. I was sitting around and I was thinking about, okay, how can I make this impactful? Like, how can I take what we've built on social media and make it mean something? Because what I've always thought is like social media is rented real estate. We are a slave to the algorithm. We can't really, do anything about it. So how can I take this opportunity of this massive audience, these besties who show up every single day and turn it into something tangible? And, I love reading. I am a big reader. And so I remembered my managers, planting that idea in my head a couple years prior and I said, you know what? Maybe I should rethink that. Like a book could be the Bible to my social media, something that like long after my video has been forgotten in your feed, right? Because there's so many things that are uploaded every day. This is something you can come back to and reference every time we're feeling a little bit down or, life isn't headed in the direction we thought it would because what I've created in my book, what I've written about was this idea called the SAS method, which is what I do all the time to keep my life moving in a direction that fulfills me, makes me happy, makes me love myself. So, yeah, I was like, I want to make something that people can come back to the way that I did it. So I'll tell you a quick story. I was on tour. I write about this in the book. That's how it starts. I was on tour with Cirque du Soleil as a singer. I was in a relationship that was disastrous, so toxic. He was a horrible person to me, but I latched on because I just wanted someone to love me the way that I love other people. And I was an alcoholic. My career had stalled. I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I found myself alone in a New Jersey hotel room on this tour on Christmas Eve. I felt so sick. I had just gotten in a fight with this man. And I was like surrounded by empty beer cans. And I looked around and I just like had this moment of clarity that I said, I really need to figure this out because I feel like I'm at a fork in the road where I'm going to go one direction and I'm going to lose everything I've worked my whole life to, to accomplish, or I can do something about it and like start to like myself again. And I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror. My face was all puffy. Literally just gotten off the phone with one of my best friends whose mom was sick. And I was telling her that she could do everything and she's amazing and she's stronger than she gives herself credit for. I was being the hype person. I was being her best friend. And I looked in the mirror and I just like said to myself out loud, be your own best friend. Like, why can't I take my own advice? And so, um, something about me, I am a planner. If I can get an Excel spreadsheet, I'm turned on, bestie. Okay, I love planning, and my own, like, journey of self-love and, sobriety was no different, and so I sat down that Christmas Eve, and I was how can I spend the next year working on myself to get my life back? And, I was like, "Okay, I can break up the year in 4 quarters," and I landed on, like, I wanna reclaim something that feels like it's been taken away from me, and the director of Cirque that I had just worked with did not like me at all because I was a perfectionist and my insecurities made me ask too many questions. And so he would call me sassy all the time and like not in an endearing, like, you're sassy. It wasn't like, hey girl, you're sassy. It was like he meant it derogatory. It was a slur um by the end of rehearsals. And so it was the most recent thing, so it stuck in my head, and I was like, "Okay, maybe sassy," and so I shortened it to the word "sass," and I came up with my SASS method, which a lot of you have probably read on the back of the book, which stands for self-reflection, affirmations, standing your ground, and sculpting the life you want. And like I said, it's not some academic achievement. It's just what I used, and it worked for me. And so I just really wanted to share that and share my stories the same way I do on social media, where you get to like hear them and interpret them how they look for your life. And yeah, hopefully become your own best friend too. Oh my gosh, that was long winded. Okay. How did you get to be so fearless in confronting bullies? Thanks, Dee Dee. You know, I think honestly, I think I was always the person to stand up to people. Even though I was insecure, I was kind of shy when I was little. I got picked on ruthlessly for being flamboyant in a small, tiny little town. I got picked on, but I still had all these other things, right? I was like the best singer in school, and I did acting, and I also did sports, and I was also, smart and did like was, good in like classes, and I was part of academic after school programs. And so I had friends, I had pockets of friends everywhere. And so, you know, I didn't necessarily like, especially when I was younger, I didn't shrink back into myself when I would get picked on. I would kind of just let them have it right back. And I think I just learned early on that a lot of times, especially when you're not in like actual like physical danger, right? Like immediate, like, oh my gosh, call 911 danger. Most of these people, like their rudeness, them being mean to you, them trying to walk all over you, it is almost always more of a reflection on them and how they're hurting inside. And so standing up to them, it's really just like holding up a mirror and it kind of stops them in their tracks. So that's how I did that. I think it was just a long life of, not wanting to take crap from people who were trying to dish it out. What else? So remember, everybody, if you're watching on TalkShopLive, click the shop button if you want an autographed copy of my book. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, you just have to type shop in the little chat here, and they'll send you a link right away. Super easy. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. Um, who set up this whole Talk Live page? It was Talk Shop Live themselves, and I had a really lovely person named Sam who helped me, and I loved them. What is my most favorite chapter? Um, I mean, I don't want to give. Yeah, I'm going to give spoilers because we're on a live talking about the book. I have a chapter about my friend Jen. which I really like. That one, I am not the hero. I'm the bad guy in that chapter because I was a bad influence on her. And, she struggled later in her life. She's good now, but, um, I held on to a lot of guilt that I kind of like steered her in the wrong direction, when she first got to college. And we have still maintained our friendship all of these years later, and our lives have paralleled each other in a big way. And so the chapter is called "Queens Support Queens," and it's this idea that once you really start to like appreciate yourself, once you love yourself, and you are your own best friend, um, you know that we don't have to spend any more time focused on people who don't bring us joy, who are not on our teams, who, try to tear us down, and really focus on these people, these friendships, these relationships in our lives that really build us up. I think about relationships as a bank account. And it's really like, I hope, we got to deposit just as much as we're withdrawing. And we can't let that bank account, go into the negative. Otherwise, I'm going to close it down. Okay. We're going to shut your account. Um, and it doesn't have to be tit for tat. They don't have to be even, but you have to feel that you are getting the same amount of love and care and kindness and support that you're giving out because, we deserve that. But also I really I kinda said it on my social media yesterday. I do have a chapter about Bean. For those of you that have known me for a while on social media, I do have a chapter about Georgia and, the impact that her friendship had on me. Um, and, yeah, I just love so many of them. Yeah. Is the book appropriate for teens? I mean, it's just as appropriate as my social media, so I will let you, be, the decider in that. There is language, I do have, like, the mouth of a sailor sometimes, but there's nothing in it that is, gross or grotesque or, adult-only content, nothing like that. Does your husband ever get jealous or envious of all your besties? How to maintain privacy as you become more recognized? No, I don't think he gets jealous. It's a new thing for him because we are very different people. He doesn't do social media. He's a private person. I didn't include him on my social media for years, out of respect, and then it just became more and more that we were getting recognized in public, and this was a long term thing for me, and so. Slowly but surely, he made his way on there, and now he gets recognized just as much as I do. People notice him first sometimes, and but you know what? I waited for the right person. I waited for someone who was going to love me and, take care of me and be proud of me and build me up just as much as I do him. And, so yeah, he's actually just really proud and he loves you all. He reads your comments on my videos and, he's always like, "Oh my gosh, did you see what Brenda said? Oh my gosh, did you see what Suzanne said?" And, so yeah, he loves it. So, why did you become a defender of women? So I talk about this in the book. I talk about this in my book all the time. Women have been my life force. They have been my people, my protectors, my nurturers. So it's from all the way to when I was just a little baby. My dad was in the military. And I was born in 1987. So, like, military in the late 80s and early 90s, it was, very much primarily men. And so the dads, they went off to do basic training, like go to the field or, go overseas. And, I was there with my mom and my babysitters and my sister and my friends. And that's been kind of the through line my whole life. I do theater and I was, a gay kid in a very tiny town. Like there's one stoplight in my town. And so, I didn't fit in with a lot of just, the regular boys. And so I've just first it came from, these people have held me. Right. And then because I have like this inside track, right. I'm so close with so many women and I've grown up with them and watched them become moms and wives and girlfriends and all the things. I just see like how special women are. The amount of, empathy and love and care, but you're also, like, so fierce and you put up with so much crap and you still You just show up every day. You show up every single day, and I think that's something to be not just applauded, but something that I wanna help, like, I was taken care of, so now I wanna help also, like, bring it like, everybody up as much as I can, and that's not to say that men aren't the same. I have plenty of, men in my life that I love and cherish, but, yeah, just you're my people, always have been. Um, uh, okay, Terry B, what was your first reaction when you were told you were tops on pre-orders? Y'all have seen my social media. I haven't stopped crying. Do you, I got this book in my hand, right, the first time, and I was like, "That's cute." I mean, I cried a little bit, and then, I didn't know what to expect. I yap on social media. I talk on social media. I didn't know if it would translate. Right? It was taking a risk, I was betting on myself. And when they told me, and when they keep telling me, like every day they tell me something crazy, and like the partnerships are coming in, and like it's just it's really wild, and it's like my dreams actively coming true. You all are making my dreams come true, and that just makes me want to work harder and do more and keep showing up. So yeah, hopefully we can have this like little symbiotic relationship for a long time, bestie. Okay. Would you read a paragraph from your favorite chapter or just open and choose randomly? Yes, Kay. KA would like me to read a little bit of my book. Okay. So before I do that, let me just remind everybody, especially people who are just showing up for the first time. If you are watching on TalkShop Live, click the shop button to order a autographed copy of my book, Be Your Own Bestie. And if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, you just have to type into the chat the word shop, SHOP, and they will send you a link to order. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. Okay, so here is, I'm going to read a little bit from my book. This is a chapter called High Heels, High Notes, and Higher Standards. It is from the first part of my book where I'm reflecting on how I got to where I am. And, I'm like in the middle of the chapter. So just really quickly, I'm talking about when I was a young boy, and I would be at my babysitter's house. My mom got a part-time job when my dad was in the military when we were old enough, and so we would be the babysitters. So here's a little bit of, I guess, my writing style. This is so crazy because this is the first time any of you are gonna like know any of it. Okay. From what I can remember, my sister and I liked the woman who babysat us. When we were there, we got to watch cartoons, play, and run out to the ice cream truck. I can still feel the excitement of that sprint. One day, while we were at this sitter's house, I snuck into her bedroom and went into her closet. I looked around, knowing I shouldn't be in there, and my eyes landed on a pair of nude colored high heels. They weren't Louboutins, but they were a gateway to fabulousness. I pulled them out and put them on. Even though they were comically large on my tiny little feet, I proceeded to stomp down the runway, aka the hallway, to the kids' room where my friends and sister were playing. I sat down feeling like a superhero because I was 4 inches taller and wearing grown up shoes. And I proceeded to play with a Polly Pocket, probably telling Polly that she was a boss ass bitch who didn't need a man. LOL. I was having a perfectly lovely afternoon until the babysitter came in and saw me sitting in the middle of the floor in her nude kitten heels, which I wouldn't be caught dead in today, by the way, playing with the girl's toy. I saw the expression in her eyes change from the comforting mom eyes I was used to what looked like fear. "What do you think you're doing?" she yelled as she yanked her shoes off my feet like they were the last pair at a Walmart Black Friday sale. I felt confused and ashamed. Here was the same woman who played with me, who took care of me on days when I was sick, who gave me quarters for that ice cream truck when my parents didn't have any to spare, scolding me for being a sissy and telling me that I was a boy, which meant I needed to play with boy toys. In addition to the confusion, a red hot wave of shame crashed over me. I liked playing with the boy toys, but I also liked playing with that boss bitch Polly and whipping up a sweet treat in the easy bake oven. Why couldn't I do both? The girls didn't get yelled at when they played with the Matchbox cars. From that day on, I didn't dare go into our babysitter's closet ever again, and I was careful to stick with the toys that didn't have a hint of pink or purple on them. All I ever wanted to do was make people happy. And if I was going to do that, I would have to figure out a way to change. No matter how careful I was, though, the shame of that moment stuck with me. And that day, I learned there was something inside of me that I needed to hide from grown-ups. And I was taught something that I wouldn't have the words for until many years later. I thought I had to earn love because the real me, the fabulous, curious, sparkly me, was wrong, or at the very least, inconvenient. So I didn't just learn to hide, I learned to perform, to please. Oh gosh, that was crazy. Um, yeah, I just loved that little part. When I was writing it, um, I had totally forgotten about that experience, but I was trying to remember why I ever started not truly being myself. And that's the moment, like, that I pinpointed, that was the first moment I ever felt shame. And the first moment, this isn't unique to being a little gay kid. I think this is a universal feeling, that we start off one way and then the world keeps, picking and prodding and kind of molding us to be, more palatable to their expectations, their desires, what they deem appropriate for us. And that's when we all of a sudden, we start becoming embarrassed. Everything starts to feel a little cringy, and we can become a little smaller. I know eventually, I hear the older we get, eventually you get past that. But for such a long part of our lives, the bulk of our lives, the fact that we put on a costume, I think is sad. And so I wanted to do something about it. And you can imagine today, I don't pretend to be something I'm not. So, uh, so I'm so excited for your Audible, which of course I've already pre-ordered. Thanks, Melissa. You're so witty. What moment in your life did you realize that you were so awesome at defending others? Yes, someone asked a similar question earlier. It's been always. I wasn't always great at defending myself, but I've always been good at defending others. I was always good at being people's best friend. I just wasn't great at being my own best friend. And so that's what the heart of the book is like taking that thing that was inside of me that I knew I was good at. I know I'm good at being a friend. I know that I'm good at standing up for others and protecting people and caring about them. I know that I have empathy pouring out of every orifice of my body. But how can I apply that and also absorb into the very fabric of who Misha is, that I deserve that same support, that same care. So that's what the book is. Sorry, everybody, I got to do it just because I know there's always people just tuning in. If you would like an autographed copy of my book, Be Your Own Bestie, um, if you're watching on TalkShop Live, click the shop button. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, you just have to type the word shop into the little chat there and they will send you a link. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. What else do we have? Yeah, there's so many about my tour. Oh my gosh, I'm very excited about my tour, y'all. I am very, very excited about it. I cannot wait to meet so many people and hug you. I literally, because I was a performer my whole life, right? Theater and cruise ships and all that. And now I do this, which sometimes feels a little lonely because it's just me and my phone. And so I think this is going to be like marrying the two worlds. And I get to be on stage and I get to like put faces to all of you, and so I'm very excited about that. And I promise, this tour is doing really well, so we will add more dates at some point. We are looking and seeing all and reading all the comments, and I'm very, very excited. So hi, bestie. Hi, Ariana S. What advice would you give to someone who struggles to change a lifelong pattern of putting themselves last and wanting to make a change? Okay. We can do that. So it seems like you've already done a lot of self-reflecting, right? The first part of my SaaS method is self-reflecting. You know that what the problem is. I think we can go a little further. I always say it's like peeling back, an onion, just a little less stinky when we're talking about self-discovery. And you just keep asking yourself why. Like, why do I keep putting myself last? Why, and getting down to root causes. But you're asking for advice on how to get past that. So This is a piece of advice I literally give out multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day. It is so 7 and over 7 years ago was the day that I was in my hotel room at a very low point in my life where I decided to get sober and break up with my boyfriend who was treating me poorly and start to love myself again, and where I came up with this SAS method. I have done this one thing every single day for the last 7 years, and I'm not even joking. This is not hyperbolic. Um, I have this concept of, like, dating myself, right? And, like, the weirder, the better. And what I mean by that is I do something for me every single day that has no relationship to my responsibilities, to other people in my life, to like, what's in my planner and my calendar, none of it. Just something that is for Misha. And some days this can be, like, the tiniest little thing, right? Like, right, if you go to work and you work in an office, you're there all day, you come home, you also have to, as soon as you go inside, you have to cook and clean and figure all these things out. It's like these 2 different worlds, but there's a moment where you park your car in the driveway. What if your thing that day is just sitting in your car for 5 minutes, eating your favorite candy? Just 5 minutes that are uninterrupted, that are just for you, and not feeling guilty about it, right? Because it's important that you, like, decompress. So it could be that tiny. Other days, it's much bigger. It's, going to therapy or, I've had a vacation on my mind for a long time. I'm gonna book it, right? Um, and everything in between. Sometimes I, will just take a walk without my headphones, without any music playing and just, like, go on a really long walk and just, like, think. I really like bubble baths, but basically, when you do this for yourself every single day, if you, take a moment or 2 that is dedicated to you, you are training yourself. It's like that's your rehearsals for you saying, "I I deserve this. I am worthy of feeling good." And we give so much of ourselves. I know all of you. I know my besties. I know my community. I pay attention. I know that you are all empathetic, nurturing, caring people. So I know that you freely give that out to everybody around you. And so this is for you. This is teaching you that you are someone that also deserves that you are worthy of being taken care of. And we still want that from the world around us, right? But our most important relationship is the one with ourselves. And so, yeah, I do that every single day. And if you keep doing that, I took the scenic route to get to the point. But when you do that every single day, that's what builds confidence. I just made a video about this the other day that I think a lot of people, we get trapped in wanting confidence first before we try to change or try to do something or go after our dreams, but it's the other way around. Confidence is something that we earn, it's something that we practice, that we work out, just like our muscles. And so when you're taking care of yourself, you are building that confidence because confidence is just trust in yourself. And so that makes breaking patterns, that makes when life throws a curveball at you and knocks you down, makes getting up a lot easier because because you have the support. You've built the armor yourself. You're not waiting for somebody else to do it. It's been a game changer for me. I was somebody that I cast a lot of blame on the reasons why I wasn't where I wanted to be, both emotionally and like career-wise. And um yeah, I cast a lot of blame, and then finally I took some accountability and said, "Okay, but how am I the problem? How can I change? How am I allowing those things to affect me? How am I allowing those things to dictate how I move through the world?" And like, those patterns. And so yeah, that's basically what happened was I just took care of myself every day and got over it. Not got over it. I still struggle sometimes, but now I have a method that I can go back and I can work on it and fix it, rather than letting it snowball and become something overwhelming. Okay. But thanks for that question. I love you so much, bestie. Chelsea V, how do I do anything for myself to be my own bestie if I just live for my family? You know what, Chelsea? Literally, I have a chapter in my book about a really good friend of mine, who lives here in Austin, who she lost herself, right? She lost herself to being a mom. And I think this is really common because I met her And she would say things all the time like, "Well, I'm sorry that I never answer your phone calls, and I'm sorry that I'm only gonna be able to see you once every 14 months. This is just my life for the next 18 years." Right? It was a joke. Parents joke about not having lives and how their kids run everything all the time, but I think there's a lot of truth behind those jokes. And I think a lot of people oftentimes, they lose themselves to family, especially if you're a parent. And it's admirable. It's because you love them. It's because you care. It's an easy trap to fall into, but we have to remember, whether you're a sibling or a child or a parent or a spouse or whatever the relationship is, we have to remember that we are also people. We're also individuals. And so it's not selfish and to take care of ourselves. It's not um, taking time that's just for us doesn't mean that we don't love other people, that we don't care about them, or that we're putting ourselves above anybody else. There's room for both. And my friend had to learn that. She actually has a unicorn of a husband. Huge crush on him. Okay, but he's so helpful, and he loves her so much, and he's such a good dad. And he was actually the one that was just like, "Hey, she's really struggling over here. I will pay for it, but, like, please, will you take her on a spa date? Because I need her to remember that, like, she's a woman, she deserves to feel beautiful, she deserves to be pampered, like, she's very stressed on just being a good mom. She watches Instagram meals of, mommy bloggers and, feels like she's failing." So, you find those little moments. Like I said, when I was talking about the date yourself thing, it doesn't have to be huge. It can just be like, what mine was the other day? I was getting ready for the day, and I'm someone that normally just like slaps on, one or two things like skincare wise. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the whole 14-step routine today. And I took about an extra 20 minutes in the bathroom just to like touch my skin and touch myself and, make sure I was looking cute for the day. Um, so what did so but thank you for that. I love you all so much. Okay, real quick before I get to the next question, I have to say it again. You all know what I'm about to say. If you are watching on TalkShop Live and you would like an autographed copy of my book, Be Your Own Bestie, my debut book, just click the shop button. If you're watching on Instagram or Facebook, you can just type the word shop, SHOP, into the chat. They will send you a link. That's super easy. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. I love you all so much, by the way. I hate being salesy. It's not in my nature. But this is my job, and I'm actually really grateful to do it. And it's putting me out of my comfort zone, which I always think is a good thing. So do I plan on writing another book? That's all up to you, Sarah B. That's all up to you. If this one is a success, I absolutely would love to write another book. I enjoyed every single part of this process, my whole team, the part of actually writing, and I can't wait to like see you all with it, like when I'm on tour and stuff, and getting like direct feedback. That's going to be so cool. Um, Okay, sorry. I was reading one. Ray B. What advice do you have to someone whose mom is constantly making negative digs and suggestions of my impending failure? Who told me flat out she's disappointed me for my tattoos? You'll be happy to know, and not surprised, that I have a chapter about this in my book, Be Your Own Bestie. Um, what I'm going to tell you up front and first and foremost is that I love you and you're perfect. Okay. And if you put your hand over your heart and you feel your heart beat, that's enough. That's enough for you to know that you are special and unique and important. Okay. And so I hope nobody ever makes you feel that way. And I hope that anybody's, even a parent, I hope that you don't allow their negative talk about you to become self negative talk, right? Don't allow that to define, who you are, because I've seen that happen. One of my absolute best friends, is probably the smartest person I know. She is so just so gracious and so giving and the most humble creature I have ever met in my whole life. And she, for the longest time, said really nasty things about herself. And I didn't get it. I didn't understand because here was this person that I would let sit upon a bedazzled pedestal for the remainder of my life, like always above me. She is a goddess to me. And she didn't see or speak about herself that way. And I was so confused. And then I went to her house for Thanksgiving. My God, it became very clear very quickly where she got those ideas in her head. It was her mom. Her mom said awful things about her. I actually made a video about this once because um, in her adult life has gotten over that. She reflected. She took accountability on how she allowed her mom to train her to talk bad about herself, and she got over that. And she set up boundaries with her mom. But she had a child, her second kid, last year, and she put up a picture on Facebook, and her mom the first comment I saw was from her mom, and it was so nasty because it was her, like, in the hospital just after giving birth, holding her baby for the first time, um, and her mom was just like, "Oh, don't put this picture on Facebook. You look like a," and I'm not gonna say it on a live when I'm working with TalkShopLive right now, but it was a really nasty, name calling. And I was just like, "I can't believe that, like, your daughter who just brought your healthy grandchild into this world is just, like, excited to share with everybody that they're both doing well, that that's your first thing." Um, my advice to you, in this situation is that first, I don't know the full parameter, like, I don't know your full relationship. So I'm not gonna tell you what to do with, your mom, but I will say that it's your choice. And sometimes, boundaries look like taking a step back. Sometimes boundaries look like what we think about them on social media, like you give a hard line and you set your expectations, and if someone crosses that line, you deal with it, and maybe you cut them out of your life. And, you know, that's just what it is. Unfortunately, you have to set those boundaries. But what I'm imploring, like my biggest thing is, I hope that you don't allow it to affect you, and you realize that you don't need someone like that to tell you how you are. You already know. You already know you're a good person. Okay. Oh my gosh, Erica A. Okay, besties, are you ready for this question from Erica A, our bestie? Coming out of a 16-year marriage, 31-year toxic relationship, you just turned 48. What is the first thing you would recommend I do to get to know slash love myself in this new identity? Okay, first of all, I'm so glad that you dropped the weight. And I don't mean your body, I mean the 250 pounds of dead weight that was your ex. Okay, we don't need toxic relationships in our life. We don't need any of that anymore. And so I would say you're 48. You're old enough where you've like earned your wisdom, you've learned some things, you know about life, but you're still young enough that you can get up on a table and, shake those double cheeseburgers if you know what I mean, okay? So I would say I think the first thing I would do is do something that's fun. How draining was it? How many pieces of you did you lose due to this man, to this person, right? So that would be my suggestion. The first thing is do something that's just fun. And, the second thing I wanna tell you is, because I get this question a lot, actually. People ask about how they navigate these feelings, getting out of a messy relationship. And I think why people get so confused in this time is because when we move on from something, even if it's for a good reason, right? Like they're not good for us, it creates a space, it creates a void that wasn't there before. Right? That person filled that space. And we as humans, we don't like that. We don't like the unknown. It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us uneasy. And so, that space becomes filled with dread and self-doubt and did I make the right decision and am I going to get through this? And so I really like to reframe those thoughts and you see that space and now we really try to look at it as opportunity. How can we find those pieces of you that you lost? How can we like reunite you? You're also like 31 years have passed. There's so much that you might still have yet to learn. So I would just go out and I would just try things, sign up for classes, do something social, talk to, the people in your life that you love and cherish. But just whatever you do, make sure that it is building you back up because it takes some time and there's going to be some difficult emotions with that. I have been there a bajillion times. It wasn't 31 years, but it was definitely people who treated me like garbage and hurt me a lot. So you'll get through it and you're going to be better for it. Let's go dancing. Tell me where you live. Okay. Yeah, Ali E. What was that saying again? So I said, if you put your hand over your heart and you can feel your heart beating, that's enough. That is all the information you need to know that you deserve greatness, that you deserve love, that you deserve to be taken care of, that you deserve to keep going and live a full and happy life, full of new experiences and cuddles and puppies and yeah, get through it. What if I don't want romantic ever again? Is that okay? Yes, girl. Chelsea, you can do whatever you want. You are the boss ass bitch in this scenario. You get to call the shots. Okay? Promise. Okay, I have time for a couple more questions, but before we do that, I just have to remind everyone one more time if you would like an autographed copy of my book, Be Your Own Bestie, which I'm telling you is very good. If you're watching on TalkShop Live, click the shop button. If you're watching on Instagram or Facebook right now, just type the word shop into the chat. They'll send you a link. And if you are watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. Okay. Um, okay. What else? What else do we have? Misha, why won't your book send to Canada? That's just TalkShop Live. TalkShop Live is for the US only, but if you click the link in my bio, there is Indigo. Indigo's Canada, not Australia, right? Um, but yeah, you can get it in Canada, just not this one, not here. But I love you. Um, what else? What else? Can we get an autographed copy a different way? PayPal isn't working. If you catch me on tour, or I don't know, maybe send me a DM. I might see it. I get so many, I promise, that I'm not ignoring you. If you sent me a message in the past, I just get like literally hundreds on each platform per day. Um, okay. So Kayla B says, "Hi bestie, did you get a response from the hater you got a DM from saying why do you talk about your book all the time?" I blocked her. I blocked her. That's another thing. You know, when we're talking about loving ourselves and setting our boundaries and things like that, sometimes we have to know when to walk away. And I stood up for myself. I confronted her on how she was treating me, but I don't need any more of that energy. We're not going to go down a rabbit hole of negativity and do tit for tat. She said something crazy to me. I said something hysterical to her. I posted on social media to monetize off of her nastiness. And then I blocked her. So she doesn't have to see about my book anymore. And she doesn't have to see about my husband anymore. Blessings to her life. um, so, all right, let me see if I can find another question. One more. Let's do one more question. Um, there's so many about tour. You're all are so cute. I love you so much. Is there Oh, real quick, can you open up more VIP ticks in Cleveland? Bestie, that's a different kind of VIP. They only have a certain number of reserved seats. That's all that VIP means. There is no VIP add-on for Cleveland. Everyone will get the chance to meet me and get your stuff. Okay. Um, well, all right, Bestie. I don't know if we have any more questions. I've been scrolling. Um, May I have your permission to use your book at the leadership group that we put on at my work? Yes, absolutely. Please share the love. I would love that. Um, okay, here's one more from Angela. Okay, Angela J. I am a much older woman now and lived my life as many of do for others in my life. Now an empty nester, finding how to love myself. Why is it such a struggle? Um, I think it just goes back to kind of the conversations that we've been talking about that it's pattern. You spend a long time really focused on other people. And so when they're gone, and obviously if you're an empty nester, if they're off living successful lives and taking care of themselves, that means you did a good job. So, don't forget that. Don't ever forget all that we've achieved and accomplished leading up to this very day. That's also huge. But now you just have, your time. And so it goes back to these, let's get sassy, like my little method. Let's reflect. We're not feeling great. Like we're not able to love on ourselves. Why is that? Right? Because I just don't know how yet. And so once we can figure out the whys as to why we're not feeling great, then we can start to affirm ourselves. That affirmations, that's the second part of my method. The right I spent months building myself back up. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It's something that's happened over years. But something like that spent months researching and developing when this was just supposed to be for me, by the way. This SAS method was never supposed to be a book. It was something that I never thought I would share with the world. It was just my own map just happened to work for me. Um, but you have to find ways to build yourself up and get creative with it. It doesn't have to look the same way that I did it or anybody else does it. It's just every day, even if it feels super awkward and not at all comfortable or natural, do something for yourself. You know, say something nice to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. Touch yourself. Just really, really the way I look at it, love yourself the way you want someone else to love you. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. What is my favorite? Okay, I have another one. Okay. Okay, this might be the last one. What is your favorite line or quote from the book? Okay. So when I was writing this book, right? It was like therapy to me. I had to go back. Right. I read that passage from a chapter. Had forgotten about that. I had tucked that memory away, but I had to think about it. So it came back up, and so I also had to reflect on all of these moments in my life, the 20 stories that I share, and I obviously had to write the chapter and think about it a lot, but then I also had to, like, edit them and revise them, and so I spent a lot of time with these feelings, and, in the in the nature of reflecting, I learned that I was good at processing bad negative emotions when something bad happened in my life, but once I processed them, I let them go. I just, like, filed them in, like, a little filing cabinet in my brain, and I didn't touch them again. When I've grown and changed for however long it's been since that thing happened to me, and so should I go back and, think about them again? So there's a chapter where I'm talking about breaking up with my childhood best friend. It was couple weeks after I declared to everybody in my life that I was struggling with alcohol and my self-worth and my self-esteem. And she pressured me to drink. And she t- took advantage of me monetarily in a situation and was just really unkind to me. And this was a reunion. We hadn't seen each other in like 10 years. Um, and it was we got reunited, we hugged each other, and she literally passed me alcohol. And I was sat there and I was so, like, angry at her because we had already talked about this beforehand. Um, and it was such a foreign feeling to me because she was home, right? Like, she was my home growing up. She was like my safe she was more of a sister to me than my actual sister. And so it was I didn't understand this feeling of being angry at this person. And I excused myself to the bathroom, and, and then I just kind of at that time, I was still really insecure with myself. So I just sucked it up and I went along with the whole week that we were on that trip. And then I ended up ending our friendship afterward. And when I thought about that over the years and tried to process what happened, I eventually came to the conclusion that I was thankful for that experience because I was so turned off by the amount of drinking that she did, like how messy that she got, that it made me never wanna be that person again, and so it contributed to my long-term success in my sobriety, right? That's what I came to, and I filed it away. But then when I came back to this story to write it out in this chapter, I was still feeling angry. yeah, there was still a lot of resentment that I was holding on to for this particular friend, like person in my life, and really getting to sit down and not run away from it and not file it away again, but have to like face it head on. I realized, and I wrote this in the book, and it's probably one of my favorite lines. And bam, that's the moment when one friend's boundaries slammed into the other's expectations. And why I love that line so much is because I realized that in that moment when I was so upset with her, she hadn't changed. She hadn't changed at all. She was still the girl, the carefree, wild child, free spirit girl who liked to party that I always loved and hung out with and knew. The problem was I changed and we didn't align anymore. Now, she was still awful to me and she still took advantage of me in other ways. So I stand by my decision to end our friendship, but I was able to let go of the anger. I was able to let go of the resentment and so that was a really great feeling to be like, wow, I didn't realize, that I was holding on to that in whatever part of my body we hold on to those kinds of feelings. But I let it go. So that's one of my favorite. Is there a bestie podcast? To be coming. It's something I want to work on. Um, so, all right, besties, we are just about at an hour, and I need to go hang out with my husband. He had a really hard day at work and my little animals, but I love you all so much. This video will be available. It will be up. It will be shared more times in the future. So, if you would like to get an autographed copy of my debut book, Be Your Own Bestie, sure to be a bestseller, you can if you are on TalkShop Live, you can click the shop button. If you are watching on Instagram or Facebook, just type the word shop into the chat. They will send you a link. And if you are watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. I just want to say this from the bottom of my heart that I really appreciate you. I love you all so much. The past couple of months have been a whirlwind for me and truly life-changing and crazy and wild. I am very grateful. I've been saying it, I've been shouting it for years, and especially the last few weeks. But I only shout it so much because I really mean it, and I want everybody to know just how much I appreciate you. And can't wait to meet a lot of you on tour. I can't wait for the tour to be a wild success, so we can keep coming to more cities, more countries close to you. And as always, I just love you. And I'll see you on social media. I will see you on the road, and hopefully you all fall in love with my book, Be Your Own Bestie. I'm super, super proud of it. And yeah. All right. I love ya. I hope you have a wonderful night or morning or wherever you live. I hope it's a really good time. Okay. Yay. We did it. Mwah.